Hello, I'm Richard Mize, real estate editor for the Oklahoman and Oklahoman.com, talking with Jim Parrack, retail specialist at Price Edwards and Company Commercial Real Estate.
Hey, Richard.
You have just put out your year-end retail market summary for 2019, and what's the headline?
There it
There's
is.
nothing big jumping out of it. It's just pretty. It's pretty good, but there's nothing screaming about it. What's the headline?
Oh, there's always good stuff going on in the retail
there's good
business.
stuff, but
So,
where's Costco? There's no Costco out there that we're waiting on. There's no big thing.
I think probably the takeaway from the survey this fall is really that the retail market, both nationally and locally, is probably doing better than people generally think. So many of the articles over the last couple of years have been about the death of brick and mortar retail and this, that, and the other. And I think the market has kind of come to an equilibrium where it's really pretty healthy, and I don't think people realize that.
People in the business. This is kind of inside baseball stuff. Do you think consumers, all the consumer notices, all I notice as a consumer is if there's the store's gone that I'm used to seeing there, or there's a new one?
I think the consumer and general public kind of has, because of all the news articles over the last few years, gotten the impression that the market's not as healthy as it is. But there's been, there's been a lot of new stores open, a lot of new concepts open. The market's just been much more dynamic than perhaps it has historically, and so some of your favorite tenants may have gone away. But there's some newer, sexier ones that have kind of replaced it, and those haven't gotten as much press.
Couple of bullet points, if you will, on your general summary at the beginning.
Yep.
It's best practices are back, like they should have never been gone, but
it is kind of interesting.
Are back. Brick and mortar figuring out a way to incorporate the online world. I mean, that's not news, but it's continuing evolution of how they make it work, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's some trends in retail nationally that we're going to live with for a while. And you've mentioned a couple of them, and the internet's a big thing. It's going to continue to be a big thing. But retailers are figuring it out. They're figuring out how to integrate internet into their model. And I think they're figuring out how to maximize and optimize that mix. I think technology is going to play a big part going forward in retail. We've seen a little bit of that already, but it's going to get. We've talked about this before, but before we're done, the technology side of retail is going to get scary. You know, we are already used to ads following us around on Facebook, ads following us around on Twitter. And on the internet, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And retailers are going to have to figure out kind of that line between being too creepy and doing something that is a service to us.
How much do you think is that generational? Because, for example, when I moved here 20 years ago, the realtor that was showing us around, helping us try to find our house, she told us that the Walmart Supercenter at Danforth and Santa Fe and Edmond was brand new, and it had been controversial, a lot of not in my backyard type stuff, and she hesitated to tell us because she thought it would repel us. And my wife and I are like going, cool, that's a super center right there. That comes to mind because that creepiness that you, it's just people my age and older that I hear complaining about that. I don't know that my kids are as creeped out.
I think that's probably
by
right.
the kind of information that finds us these days without us looking for it. It finds us now.
I think I think you're right. I think younger folks understand that and accept it better. I think there's less of a privacy expectation among young folks. Yeah. But there's still going to be a line there somewhere.
Right.
And as we get into artificial intelligence and virtual reality and all that, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, so, or better, depending on your perspective.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Now let's hit the sectors, the geographic sectors. I'm just going to name one and you tell me what the headline is.
Okay.
Let's try to keep it brief, but really, Northwest.
Northwest, Northwest is one of our more mature markets, and there's nothing, it's kind of status quo. Yeah. And there's been a few new things that have filled up some space that's been vacant a long time. Before we got on camera, we were talking about Ollie's, and Ollie's went in council crossings, and a space had been vacant for years. Mm-hmm. And so there's been some space filled up, and so it's kind of steady as it goes.
Is the at-home Is that in that sector?
At Home is in north on Memorial Road.
Okay, let's talk about north.
Yeah, so north, as we all know, is our biggest retail market. Memorial Road, there's 4 million square feet of retail space within a couple of miles there. And it's continuing kind of to be ground central of retail. And so there's been a few new concepts there. At Home took the old toys space and the space that Hobby Lobby moved out of, which filled some vacant space. And so people still want to be there. And Chisholm Creek continues to add. They've added a few new concepts on where the restaurants are there around the lake. And so, the thing to look forward to there is to see if Chisholm Creek does the second phase where they add some more retail. And so I think that area will continue to grow and kind of lead retail in the market.
South, especially down the interstate, still pretty tight.
Yeah, so as you go south, inner south, is a little bit like northwest. It's more steady as you go. Raza Fitness opened on some of the old Sears land at 44th and Southwestern. And so there's been a few deals like that. Really, as you go further south is where you get into and you get into more in Norman. We've added some square footage there. Burlington and Alto added new buildings and more. Parkway Plaza in Norman, which has struggled for a long, long time, has come out of receivership, and they've added a few tenants. Cost Plus World Market went in there. Party City went in there. So it's added some vacants, some square footage.
World Market. I don't have to go to Wichita.
You don't have to go to Wichita anymore.
Cool.
It is one of those stores that it's kind of like Trader Joe's. It's one of those stores that kind of has a cult following.
It's a destination.
Yeah.
I can see me driving from Edmond to Norman.
And people love it, and so they've opened. And so as you get farther south and on the interstate, there's a few new deals there. And the more Norman market continues to be strong and have a low vacancy.
Nobody's in really bad shape, are they? I mean, Eastern Oklahoma County is not struggling really. The West Central isn't. Nobody's really struggling. Edmond is in pretty good shape.
The overall market is fairly healthy. The market vacancy rate was 8.7%, which is a little improved from the end of last year, because some of this space has been filled that we've talked about, and even though I really don't want to talk about it, marijuana dispensaries have filled some of the vacant space.
It's in here, though.
It's in there.
He wrote about it.
I reluctantly put a comment about it in there.
Well, it can't be ignored, but it doesn't have to be the headline every time.
It does not have to. I hope not, anyway. So.
Anything else?
I think that we are probably in a period of a couple of years where the market's going to be kind of like this, where it's kind of measured. It's not full steam ahead, but there aren't bad things happening either. And I attribute that some on one side to the health of the retail market in general, but on the other side, I think especially the sluggishness of the energy industry in Oklahoma is beginning to kind of weave its way into the broader economy. And so because of that, unless energy turns around, I don't really see real estate and retail in particular taking off.
We've heard that story before, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Jim Parrack, Price Edwards and Company, thank you.
Okay.
I'm Richard Mize, real estate editor for the Oklahoman and Oklahoman.com.